Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation. Look who's back to the channel, David Botas. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Doing well. I've got David back. Going to talk about our favourite band of all time, the Beatles. And the topic today, very timely with the release of the anthology, is the three singles that were released after the Beatles broke up in 1970. So we're going to talk about Free as a Bird, Real Love, and also Now and Then. Do we like it? Do we not like it? And just have a bit of a deep dive conversation. Now, David, I had a bit of a rant a couple of years ago when Now and Then came out,
Yeah.
and it wasn't very favourable with a lot of folks on the internet, but it was basically expressing my opinion. And my opinion was that I don't think it should have come out as a Beatles song, and it should have come out as a John Lennon song supported by the Living Beatles. So that's an area I'd like to talk about again. But why don't we start about talking about the individual songs, and there's only three of them, the singles. Free as a Bird. Do you like that song?
Oh, I don't like it. I love this song. I've you know, I've been with this song for it's 30 years old at this point. I think that the newer version that came out that cleans up John's vocals a bit. I'm still, the test of time will tell if I think it's superior or not. But I'm loving the way that that sounds just because I can hear John a little bit more clearly. I never took umbrage with the fact that the original was by happenstance, they did the best that they could. Jeff Lynne did the best they could to clean it up. It had that distortion going on, but that was a precedent that was already set with John's vocals. When you listen to, a lot of like the Beatles stuff, especially the Technicolor era, even when you listen to like Number Nine Dream from 1974, you're still hearing sort of like a distorted Lennon coming through it. So it has like a little bit of like a light psychedelic tinge to it. It doesn't sound as if like you're trying to listen to, let's say, Freddie Mercury. You're trying to get an old Freddie Mercury demo, and he's trying to be operatic, but it comes from like a dusty old cassette tape. It doesn't clash. So I love Free as a Bird. I think that the guitar part that starts at the beginning of it is iconic. George Harrison. I think that it's beautiful that you have a song where Harrison sings, Lennon's there. Paul's got his vocal part too. It's a strong lyric. So it's one of my. I don't know if I put it. Maybe it's like kind of like top 30 songs I go to by the Beatles for a very very long time now. I
Yeah.
really love "Free as a Bird."
Yeah. Interesting. Top 30. Um, I like it, but to me, it doesn't sound like the Beatles. And that's been my biggest bugbear from the day. To me, it sounds very much a Jeff Lynne ELO type of song. And I think that because it was originally demoed, recorded by John in the 70s, you've got to remember when you're creating music or creating art, it's very much what's happening in that particular time. And I cannot relate this particular song to any sound or sonic landscape within the Beatles up to 1970. To me, it sounds unique and it sounds very much for that time. And then it brings up this whole new topic, which is going to dive into the other songs of, can this be classified truly as a Beatles song where it was recorded as a demo, they cleaned it up, and post the death of John Lennon, George Harrison adds his bit, Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr add their bits. Can it be truly classified as the Beatles?
Uh, well, I understand the sentiment that it doesn't fit in with sounding like something that came out in 1966 or 1970. Um, I disagree that it's not the Beatles, because categorically speaking, if you have John on it, you got Paul's on it, singing, playing bass. You got George's guitar, Ringo's playing drums, George is singing. If that's not categorically the Beatles, then what is?
But the intent. Now, I've read a lot of interviews with John, a lot of books on about John, and his views with the Beatles sort of oscillated. I hate him, I love him, I reconcile with him. He was it was like a bit of a roller coaster. With a lot of the Beatles, felt the same, like George Harrison. But the intent, the artist created a demo, created a song. You know, if he had foresight that down the track, do you think he would have allowed this song in any shape or form to be put out under the name of the Beatles? He may have included some of these folks, some of these old band members as guest stars to support them. And let's face it, there was a lot of cross-pollination between the Beatles and a lot of the solo albums, but they weren't called the Beatles. To me, I think it's more legit if it was John Lennon featuring Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. And I do not quite understand, and sorry, I'm probably going to get hits for this, why it should be bracketed as part of the Beatles catalogue and the anthology. It was recorded, the origination of this song is much later. The sound is very much of a time, and let's face it, the 70s belonged to ELO. It was all over the shop, so it's all in that slipstream. I just can't fathom how it's somehow been bracketed into the Beatles. If anything, it should be bracketed into a John Lennon box set.
I don't. Well, so I hear Jeff Lynne's thumbprint on it because of the production. When you relate it to ELO, I don't think it sounds like. I think if you're going to relate it to anything, it'll probably sound closer to Traveling Wilburys era than ELO in itself. It doesn't have like this grand orchestration going on or these like synthesizers. It's not a dance song. A lot of the things that ELO's known for, I would never listen to that song if it was just an instrumental and I didn't hear the vocals on it and think like, oh, is this a new ELO? Granted, like I guess if the Traveling Wilburys didn't exist, and possibly that's the lowest common denominator. I don't think. I think that when you say that it shouldn't be classified as a Beatles song, I think that's an appeal more to tradition more than anything. There's this mythologizing. We're coming up with a new word here. Is that a word?
You can put
Where
any word in this show, mate. I make up words all the time, so just do it.
yeah, so there's this. I don't know if there's any hardcore gatekeeping that exists with any band more so than the Beatles.
I get
And
that. I get that, mate. Sorry, but gatekeeping, I get that. But the thing is, the person that could say yay or nay is dead, and that's the risk we have in this whole discussion. The most important person, the songwriter, has passed, and we can only go on anecdotal evidence of what his feelings were in respect to the Beatles and the legacy, or whether he would have ever wanted this track, and for that matter, the other track, like Now and Then, to be used under the moniker of the Beatles. So, look, I love that. I think these songs have a lot of charm, but the thing that I have, and maybe it is a little bit gatekeeping, I'll put my hand up, I just don't think it's Beatles.
well, first of all, you're entitled to your opinion. I mean, it's like defining authenticity by the calendar rather than the people involved. There were so many times where in the Beatles, there wasn't just all four in a room. They all creatively come up with the composition right there and then, and then it gets recorded and then it's done. It's a demo that started off with one or the other, and then there's augmentation or there's collaboration that happens afterwards. So in spirit, if the that John, if you're thinking in the sense glass half empty, and you think I can't get on board with John actually wanting this to happen, and it feels like some sort of abomination, I can understand how someone can think that like this shouldn't exist. Especially if you probably had heard the Free as a Bird demo, because these demos existed on the bootleg circuit beforehand. Real Love,
Yes.
I believe, was included on the John Lennon Imagine documentary film that came out in the late 80s,
Mm,
um, in a raw version. I had heard Now and Then 20 years ago. My brother had this bootleg called the Dakota Sessions. And that's when I
mm,
first heard it. And I was like, oh, wow, this would have been a good one for them to have. This is before I even knew that they were working, that it almost did happen with the anthology back in the mid 90s. Um, it's music is supposed to be, music isn't about rules in my mind. This, it seems more like there's these rules. Um, it's defining authenticity by like the calendar date. The Beatles ended in 1970, and that's the standard. And you can't do anything about it afterwards. I mean, like, if like, so like, what if you heard this song and it actually, you thought it was the bee's knees, and you actually considered it to be like, it hits hard, like one of their better songs. Does that have anything to do with how your opinion is shaped?
no, I'd say it's a great John Lennon track because, okay, I know you say about rules, but I think that when a band is dissolved and cease to exist, that's when it's over. You can't go back retrospectively and sort of try to change the parameters and say, oh, well, this was recorded 5 years later. Posthumous will, embellish this track and put it in. My concern of this, like, I'll say it again, folks, I like these songs, but I just think they're John Lennon songs supported by the other Beatles. And my concern is, and this is copping a lot of crap on the social media, is how the Free as a Bird with the remix, and they've done that cleanup, has actually there's been lots of complaints about John Lennon's voice. I'd like to get your views on that because it's somebody described it. It sounds like his stomach's being punched in. It's really the volume's up and down, and they've gone too far. And this is it goes into this whole sort of slipstream of a conversation about AI. How far is too far in regards to this? So maybe I can get your views on the AI version of this song, the cleaned up. Are you a fan?
Oh, I love it. I don't think that it's considered AI in the same sense. AI is a dirty word right now when it comes to music, because it suggests that something is being artificially created, whereas though it's just with these songs, it's everything everything. It's not like an alien has like come in and inserted itself and sort of like created like a symbiotic relationship and reanimated John Lennon and is now singing in the song. It's the current state of modern technology that's cleaned it up. I don't understand at all, but this is this is all like, this is why I don't do panels anymore. Uh, I love talking to you though, but like when it's too many people that are chiming in and you can't really get a direct like one-on-one conversation about it. So this is an over intellectualizing of a song, or the way that songs are, in my opinion. Um, Music does not enter us through logic; it enters us through an impression. Logic is the story that we build afterwards. So, like with Free as a Bird, Real Love, Now and Then, we aren't talking about documents here. We're talking about impressions that you get. You press play before you know a damn thing about it, like, or who played what, or when it was recorded, or did they all finish at the same time? Did George Harrison show up 6 months later and put a guitar solo on it, like he did on Let It Be, like in the early '70s? You feel something first, and you feel as though if you does it hit or does it not, and then you intellectualize that feeling later, whether you loved it, you hated it, you shrugged at it, whatever. This is the part. This is where people like pretending that this isn't like a true song, and it starts getting into like it's like it's like they're already like against it before, like it objectively can't be considered a Beatles track because it wasn't recorded in 1966.
Yeah, you know what, mate? I
So
reckon my opinion's probably a little bit contrarian because most people like it. So I'll cop a little bit of stick for this. But I'll read something to you. And this is in the art world. So somebody goes up into their attic. Say somebody lives in Paris and they go into their attic and they see this treasure chest and they open it up and they unwrap it. And it's a partial drawing from Picasso that hasn't been completed. What would you say if somebody said, "Oh, it's not finished. Maybe I should finish the drawing"? Is that
I think that
how would you relate to this conversation? This is like a sketch that has been completed by other folks. Um,
it's
we don't know the intention. Should it be completed, or is this a little bit of bastardry of art? I'm just putting out the question for conversation.
it's a I don't consider that to be a lateral example, just because of the fact that if you touched one document, if you touch that Picasso painting, it's altered forever. That's not the way that like the demo exists. Like the demo exists can be copied and pasted into a million different files. The original is still there where you can have it. It's untouched. It's kept pristine. But then you have augmentations that can go in where it can get remixed or resorted or do whatever you want with it afterwards. As long as it's not somebody saying, "Hey, I drew this whole thing. It wasn't Picasso."
Mm,
I'm fine with it. If they come out and try to put that on as it being their own composition, then I don't think that that's or their own painting. Then I think that that's stealing and that's wrong and that should happen. If
yeah,
not, if they
look,
took
it's
a photocopy of the Picasso painting and then added stuff on afterwards, keeping the original pristine, then I might say like, that's an interesting way of like trying to like reproduce art.
yeah, that's a very extreme example. So I just wanted to throw that into the mix. Is there any
Yeah,
anecdotal evidence that John Lennon grooved on Jeff Lynne, like ELO? That's another factor because his fingerprints sonically, and I did say ELO. When I said ELO, um, I mean Jeff Lynne because he's a single person that's synonymous of a particular sound, whether it's the guitar work or it's the backing orchestration. And I agree, there's a little bit of Wilburys, but is there any anecdotal evidence that John Lennon grooved on ELO or Jeff Lynne? That's a very important factor because Free as a Bird and Real Love is definitely Lynn soundscape, doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, I can't find you the quote right away, but I do recall that he was asked about ELO once in the early '70s. I believe he was commenting on Showdown because that was a hit single at that point, like '73, and he said that he enjoyed it and he called it the son of Beatles. I could be wrong, but I found that I remember thinking about that because I was interested because I remember looking about like how he was very had very nasty about Badfinger because Badfinger
Yeah,
sounded like the Beatles and stuff. So I was like, oh, maybe he feels that way of anything else that was Beatlesque in the '70s. When he gave some credit to ELO, I was like, oh well, I was surprised he wasn't just gonna be a jerk about it.
yeah. Did you hear that sound just then? That was people all around the world opening their laptops and looking for that quote.
It shouldn't be that hard to find. I mean,
Yeah,
I found it before.
but
And
you sort of see where I'm coming here. If he's on record, then he thought that Idolo were full of bullocks.
it's
Not good. I'm sure it lines up. They would have
it's
done some due diligence.
it's I think that like what you're saying is that you can like the song, it shouldn't be labeled as a Beatles song.
Correct.
Yeah, that's like to me. So like any disagreement that we have on it being labeled Beatles or not is almost like splitting hairs. To
That's what
me,
that's what my whole channel's about. Splitting hairs.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
If
look, I don't know.
it seems this idea that you can't like if I press play on one of these tracks and it hit just as hard as Strawberry Fields Forever, what am I supposed to do then?
no,
Am I supposed to climb and stay in the closet and have this shame war with
no,
myself where like I
no,
can't?
no, because I think that's magnificent. You're grooving to a fantastic John Lennon song. But I think that in the 70s, anecdotal evidence, John Lennon's he's a lot of his music was very what I call New York, had a New York flair about it. A lot of sax, a lot
Yeah,
of horns, a little bit of funk. I'll give you an example. That song, his only number one song in that era, I think, "Whatever Gets You Through the Night." You know, the duet with
yeah.
Elton John. To me, that sums up the sort of direction of music that he's doing. And these songs that he was doing, I'm just not quite sure that he would have had that retro Beatles flair about it. Even now and then, let's have a chat about that. I
Yeah.
was listening to it, and it's a very emotionally affecting song, and it's got a little bit of Strawberry Fields and I Am a Walrus, and you got Giles Martin doing a great job. Real chip off the old block. It's got all those elements of the 1967. But again, the thing that's rattling in my mind is, from the genesis of that song, that demo, would have John have wanted to do a bit of a retro a throwback song? I'm not sure.
I think that calling it unauthentic only makes sense if it's defined by the mythology, just because John Lennon had so many different flavors like that he exposited like in the 70s. Like when I listen to Now and Then sounds stylistically similar to How from like the Imagine album. There was still strings and such like that. And I wouldn't consider any of the lyrics on Imagine to relate or to sort of be side by side with like the Magical Mystery Tour or Sergeant Pepper, even like Dig a Pony or anything like that. So I think that I think it's just conjecture to say that because a demo that he had in the late 70s, it was definitely going to only be um, cleaned up and sort of like polished up in the style of something that would have came out during Double Fantasy. Um, it could have been. I'm not saying that you're crazy for thinking that.
Out of the three songs, what's your favorite out of them?
Free, Free as a Bird.
Right. How would you rank them out of one, two, three?
In the same way that they were released. Free as a Bird's the top. Real Love, and Free as a Bird, I think, are top Beatles. This is what's tough about being a Beatles fan is because like when I say it's a top Beatles song, I'm at war with like 150 songs in my mind at that point, anyways.
Mm.
Like I'll listen to the top 50% of the Beatles catalog is something I can listen to over and over and over again any day of the year. So that's how much of a hardcore Beatles fan I am. But Now and Then I haven't taken to as much as the other two. I like it, but the other two, when I the now Free as a Bird and Real Love, which I do think that the new versions of it don't sound like any John Lennon had any gastric issues at all. Like when I listen to it, I
It's
think that's
a
just
direct
people being
quote.
reactive.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
that
that
was
this is people not having an aesthetic experience and being reactionary.
yeah.
Music is an aesthetic experience. It's not supposed to be math where, well, the ethics here show that because the song was released at this point and all, you listen to Free as a Bird as an instrumental, it's still got probably more of a Beatles fingerprint on it than it has a John Lennon one. You got the vocals from the other two. You got the bass and the guitar soloing. There's a lot of that's Beatles.
I know, but the Beatles broke up in 1970, and that's my argument. It should be a John
That's
Lennon
your
track
argument,
featuring the Beatles.
right?
So,
That's going by appealing to the calendar and not appealing to the actual four men that are on the track. That's what we differ.
I
And it's
know.
valid. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. All respect.
Yeah, it is.
Well, what do you rate those songs
Um,
or rank them?
I'm not going to rank. Oh, you mean in Free as a Bird is probably the best out of the three. Yeah. So I think it's in order of sequence too. I think now and then, to me, it sounded like it was stretching it out a little bit, like plasticine. To me, from where it was the original demo to cleaning it up, they were really stretching it. There's something that doesn't sound quite right. It doesn't sound organic. And this is one where, to me, it just doesn't fit into a, sounding like a totally organic song. Like, it's all about smoke and mirrors music, isn't it? When you listen to a song, you sort of imagine that everyone's in the same room and they're playing. But this one, to me, sounded a little bit more of the modern technology than actual four blokes in a studio hammering away and playing a tune.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the one I like the least. I can see that it does sound more so like a Lennon solo more than the other two. I think it seems like there was less of a Beatles
Mm,
imprint on it.
yep.
Um, Giles Martin is probably like the one who has more of an imprint on it than Paul or George or Ringo when I listen to that one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, mate, I'm going to set up a toll-free phone number for anyone who wants to make complaints because, and
So
and
who
you
you or
and
me?
you can put on the headphones and manage the phones and go, it's him, not me.
Yeah, we're both going to get hate for both for there's just a strong
Yeah.
opinions that
Well,
Beatles fans have.
we're just being authentic, and you're being true to yourself,
Yeah.
and same here, and that's what I appreciate, and that's why I have you on this show. So I really appreciate it. Would love to get you on the show, and we can talk Anthology 5 over the next month or so, and get your head around it. Be good because it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm down.
All right. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Put your comments. Tell us, if you agree, what you think of the songs, or disagree. All feedback is welcome. But one thing's for sure, I'll see you soon. All the best, and cheers.